This is a video for how to go about creating new and classic quizzes from both new and classic item banks in Canvas. You'll note that I am on the front page of the kind of this Canvas sandbox that I'm in, kind of this sample little place where I can mess around in Canvas, and on the left hand side of the screen we see quizzes, and I'm also going to see item banks down here. And in previous videos we've gone in and we've created two separate item banks, and within the Unit 1 question bank we created a numeric question, a file upload question, a formula question, and a multiple choice question. I'm going to show you how to go about creating different types of quizzes from that. So I'm going to go to quizzes on the left hand side. And when it loads, I'm going to go to plus quiz, and where it says classic quizzes or new quizzes, for now I'm going to say new quizzes. Now if you said I'm always going to do classic quizzes, you could click here. If you say I'm always going to do new quizzes, you could click here and it would always give you that by default. I like to keep this up because I like to choose. So I'm going to go to submit. One of the reasons why I like to choose is I've been using Canvas for a long time and I have a lot of old classic quiz questions I still like to use, so sometimes I like to use both. If you're new to Canvas, it might change. It's going to say assignment name up here. I'm going to call this sample quiz. You can do points. I'm going to leave it at 0 for now. We use an external tool for submissions here. Sync to assist means your school's information system. That means that this grade would sync to whatever your school uses for grading. My school uses Canvas as a learning management system and uses another software application for grading and attendance. So I can sync things from Canvas to there. If you are syncing to a school's information system, you're going to have to create a due date. So I'm going to say this is due tomorrow and it's available from today through Saturday. And I'm just going to go to build once I do that. And once we're back here, you can see we're in build. It says sample quiz right here. We already called it something. You can give instructions. I'll just quickly say, take the quiz, something like that. And I'm going to go up to item banks after doing that. And you'll remember we've created 4 questions out of the new item banks. And what I can do is I can go all random, or I can just kind of click in here and say, I'm going to go through and itemize the questions that I want, and I'm going to put all 4 of those in there. Now you could have just chosen all, but for the sake of watching this, we're going to go ahead and just place this in. So I now have that set up. So what I want to do once I'm done with this, if I want to see what the quiz is going to look like, I'm going to need a calculator just to kind of walk through this just real quick. So I'm going to go to preview, and it allows you to see what students are going to see. And it says, what's the capital of Missouri? It's Jefferson City. I have my students use the calculator app on their computer for this, and it says, I'm going to go 6.98 times 0.72. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to divide that by 18.71. Hit 4. And I'm going to hit enter, and obviously it gives me this long number with a lot of significant digits. I'm going to highlight all this, and this is what I have my students do. I'm going to right click on it, go to copy, and I'm going to paste that into place, and we're just going to leave it there. Now it says upload a picture of something. I have an example of that snow load map. I'm just going to kind of drag and drop that in and say, it's PDFs only. I would have to go find a PDF to put in there. I have an example of I'll have to find something else. I'm just going to skip that question for now. I could drag and drop a PDF in there, but I won't. Snow calculation for Chicago was 25. Now, if I come in and I go to submit, it says you haven't answered that question for question 3. A kid would have to find the PDF they did and submit it because we did a specific type of file format within that question if you watch that video. I'm going to say no big deal, and I'm going to go to submit. It's going to auto grade it automatically. I should have gotten 3 out of 4. Notice it gave me the correct answers here. Obviously there was no answer there, and I had this is the correct answer. So I'm going to exit the preview for the student in the bottom right hand corner, and we're going to go to settings. And I think it's important to say, shuffle the questions, shuffle the answers. That's important for test integrity. I'm in a computer lab all day long, and I don't want a kid looking to the right or the left and seeing all the same questions showing up in sequential order. The answers should be shuffled. They should be one on top of each other. I like to do one question at a time. I do allow backtracking so a kid can go back. I do allow access codes. I create access codes every hour, so if I have this class that I'm teaching first, second, and third hour, at the end of first hour I change the access code so they can't tell a friend of theirs in another class and they can take the quiz or look at it. I don't really do time limits too much. I do that on finals sometimes so they can't access it later. For filtering IP addresses, it can benefit you if you say you can only take this at school, and your school's allowed internet protocol range. So sometimes that can matter if you only want them taking it at school. When I did some pretty basic quizzes during distance learning, I kind of took that away. If you want to allow a calculator, like you just saw me use the calculator app, you can have a calculator on the quiz. I like to allow multiple attempts. Obviously, it's up to you as a teacher, but you can do, all these different average or the latest or whatever. You can do unlimited, require time between attempts, and you can restrict certain things about the student view. You can moderate it once kids actually start doing it. That's moderation, where you can actually watch kids taking the test kind of in that moderation format, and then you can actually go in and analyze what kids got right and what they got wrong. So if I go back to build here, you can see that I have all of my quiz questions here. I could change anything I wanted. We've already previewed it. I'm going to go to return up here at the top. Now this goes back into my quizzes that I've created, and if I scroll down, we just called this sample quiz, and it's not published because it's not green. You can see this little rocket ship right here. So I'm gonna go to sample quiz, and here we are. And if I go to save, it could save any changes that I made, but it's not published. So once I want this to actually go live for sample quiz, I can come down and go to save and publish, and it's going to publish it automatically. Now if I say, I really don't want to publish this, you're going to notice that, once it's published, it's kind of filled in over here. You can see other things are published, but they're closed due to having kind of a weird due date. I want to unpublish this quiz. I can just uncheck that over there, and now it's unpublished. Now I can go back and republish it, but once a student takes a quiz, you can't really unpublish it till like after the due date. Now, I'm going to go in and create a classics quiz. So that was a new quiz that we just created. I'm going to go to quiz up here at the top, and I'm going to go to classic quizzes. And I had mentioned, I've used Canvas for a while, so I have a lot of old questions and question banks. And I'm going to call this, classic sample quiz. And I can write in here, take the quiz. I'm going to write take THQ for take the quiz, just for the sake of time. It's a graded quiz. If it's a practice quiz, it's not for points. I can do a lot of different things with that. I'm just going to call this a practice quiz for the sake of time. I do shuffle answers. I like to let kids see their student responses automatically. So if I show for a practice quiz especially, so I can say, show them their correct answers now, and hide them tomorrow. They can only see them for that amount of time. I do put in an access code. I do put in a due date if I'm syncing to a student information system. I know this is a sample quiz, so I don't have to do that, but I do like to put in the due dates. And remember, for due dates and available from until, you can mess with the time down here. So, my school gets out at 3:17, so there's been days that, you can't access this after 3:17 on that school day. That really, really helps with some examples of things. Now, for this quiz, we're going to go to questions. I can go to new question and create a new question, or I can go to find questions. And I have a lot of item banks over here. So for example, I have all these different roof styles for this, architecture class I teach. I can go, select all of them and add them, please. And when I go to add them, because I've made these a lot over the years, it's going to give me every type of roof bank that I want. And I have some formula-based quizzes too. So I'll just show you this kind of as I put it in here. I have this concrete pad. They got to do some unit conversions, and there's those parentheses, A, B, and C. If I went in here to, kind of edit this, if I'm like, sometimes in the past I've messed up a formula or something, and kids are like, actually it's wrong, and I would have to go in and change the formula within this. Now, if I change the formula to write in a new formula and get rid of the old one, I do have the correct formula in here for converting, but this allows me to go in and place different types of quiz questions. I'll just do this again. I can go in and do a lot of different things, trying to find one where, I have one I have a lot of formula-based questions because I teach a predominantly engineering-based math class. I have examples where you're going to see, charts. I talked about, charts with numeric answers. I have links to external things in here. I'm not going to click on that link just because I know off the top of my head that link doesn't currently work, but I have links to external websites where they have to read the website and then come back and answer the question. Some pretty neat things that you can do. So once I'm done with that, going from my classic item banks, I can go through and say, what? I'm going to go to save. And it says, I have to put in I'm going to get rid of the access code because it's asking me to require an access code. I'm going to go ahead and say save, and I can come up to preview just like on my last ones. And I can go through and take the quiz. I'm not going to go through and take the quiz for the sake of time, but I can go through and answer these questions. And if, I'm like, what, I'm done with the student view here, I'm going to go back to keep editing. And I can edit however I wish. Again, I put this in as a practice quiz. If it was a graded quiz, might see some categories in here, give it a time limit, all those different things. But I'm going to go back to save. Now it's kind of a neat thing when I give a quiz in class, because I'm going to go back to my home screen here. Previous video I showed how to embed a Google slide, I showed how to embed a YouTube video, but anytime that we have a quiz in class, I like to place that quiz right here on the front page. And when you're going to place any course document, I can go right into course documents over here on the side. It'll say documents, and I want to try to find for myself a quiz. And if I go to links right here, I can go to quizzes, and I can scroll down and say, what, give me that beam design end of unit test. I can click save. If I wanted to go back in and change it, I'm going to say, click on the link. We're going to go ahead and take a quiz. Here's an example of everything I've got set up in the settings. If I wanted to go to preview in here, it's going to go ahead and show me the quiz that my students are taking. There's an example of a formula-based question right off the bat. So quizzes are an excellent way to find out what your students know and what they don't know, and that's kind of an obvious statement, but within Canvas, giving these questions, you can give just a real quick 3-question quiz at the beginning of class. If you just work up those item banks that you've created, allows you to be a really efficient teacher and allows you to really assess what your kids know and what you don't know in very, very real-time stats. So this has been a video for how to go about creating both new and classic quizzes from item banks in Canvas.